Hey everybody, Joe Joseph here for thedailysheeple.com, and this is your news shot. Let's go all the way up north to Canadastan, where in Canada, they say, according to CBC, welcome to the neighborhood. Have you read the terms of service? And this has to do with the idea of smart technology, specifically how it's used in the smart city application. And you don't necessarily have to be in a large metro area now for this technology for you to come into contact with this technology. I mean, it is just the implementation of this stuff is happening at breakneck speed, and people have no idea that it's happening, and or, you know, the trade-off is acceptable to them. So we'll get into that in a minute. It says the L-shaped parcel of land on Toronto's eastern waterfront known as Quayside isn't much to look at. There's a sprawling parking lot for dry dock boats opposite aging post-industrial space where Parliament Street became Queens Quay. To its south is one of the saddest stretches of Martin Goodman Trail, an otherwise pleasant running and bike route that spans the city east to west. But before long, Quayside may be one of the most sensor-laden neighborhoods in North America, thanks to Alphabet's Sidewalk Labs, which has been working on a plan to redevelop the area from the ground up into a test bed for smart city technology. Now, let me stop there because this isn't the first time that this has happened, okay? There are efforts underway all over the place. Get into that in a minute. It's being imagined as the sort of place where garbage cans and recycling bins can keep track of when and how often they're used. Environmental probes can measure noise and pollution over time, and cameras can collect data to model and improve the flow of cars, people, buses, and bikes throughout the day. Now, generally speaking, the idea is that all of this data and the newfound insights its analysis could yield will help cities run more efficiently and innovate at a faster pace than they do today. The effort is one of a handful of broad initiatives underway across the world in places such as Dublin, London, Dubai, Seattle, Glasgow, and others. The Canadian government is soliciting pitches from more smart cities across the country and has promised up to $80 million to communities competing in its Smart Cities Challenge Prize. Now, look at that. A mere $80 million. And I know $80 million is a lot of money. Don't get me wrong. But when you're talking about governments and you talk about how much their GDP is, it is a drop in the bucket. And basically what they're doing, just like they do to us, to elected officials, especially at the local level, $80 million is a budget gap. That is a significant solution to a problem if your locality or your municipality is running a budget deficit. It's like problem solved. Hoo-ah. All I got to do is, be a willing pin cushion, if you will, for the AI. It says, but when it comes to the data these cities gather, not everyone believes the trade-off's worth it. Although governments already collect lots of data on their citizens, it's becoming clear that current privacy laws aren't going to be enough to deal with the realities of what most of these visions propose. Data collection on a scale that far surpasses anything that's happening today. Now, one thing I will say is, just because there's a law on the books doesn't necessarily mean that they need to abide by it, as often is the case. We have here in America the Constitution, which is the supreme law of the land, yet it is miterated upon on a daily basis by our government and the non-representing representatives and bureaucrats that are supposed to have your best interest at heart but clearly don't. So let's just keep that in perspective as we go forward here. It says anyone who used an app or online service is probably familiar with the concept of consent. It's a legal requirement that companies or public organizations who want your electronic personal information should not only ask first, but explain in detail what they want to collect, what they plan to do with it, and who they might share it with and why. But see, in a smart city, consent goes out the window straight away. It's already hard enough to get people to read the terms of service for apps they use, and experts are skeptical we could expect any better of someone crossing into the boundary of a smart city neighborhood. Could you imagine? So here you are, you're driving down the street, and maybe you're even visiting from out of town. You could be from America. And you enter into Schmuckatellyville, USA, or Schmuckatellyville, Canada. And as soon as you cross the border, just like with your navigation app, you cross over a state border and it says, bing, welcome to Connecticut. All of a sudden, you pop into Schmuckatellyville, and bing, up comes the terms of service that you have to read prior to entering Schmuckatellyville and accept, so that you can keep go on your merry way and understand what they're collecting and how they're collecting it. Do you understand not only how cumbersome it is, but how people just will ignore, it's okay. And they just hit okay. That's what people do 99.9% of the time. So they're absolutely right. You're not going to be able to do that because think about one app. His terms of service is like pages and pages long about how they're using your thing and how this and how that. And if you want to dispute it, you want to go to arbitration, yada, yada, yada. Can you imagine what a smart city's terms of service would be? How many data points that you have to articulate in that terms of service? I mean, you can't even do it. And Kevokian, the Information and Privacy Commissioner of Ontario from 1997 to 2014 said you can't rely on legislation. She's being paid by Sidewalk Labs to advise a company on its approach, which sounds straightforward enough. Don't collect any personal information at all. Now, Sidewalk Labs and Kevokian agree not only should as little data be collected as possible, but any that is collected be stripped of all personally identifiable information or simply de-identified. Now, given that smart cities are designed to track people's habits, information that has the potential to be deeply personal and revealing, they believe disassociating that data from the person who generated it is the biggest thing they can do to sidestep privacy concerns. Let me stop there. Any of you that may be a crime show aficionado knows full well that just by the refuse that you throw away, and if this garbage can is tracking said refuse, you can almost identify who somebody is just by the trash they make, by the habits they have. You don't necessarily have to have personal data to know who it is you're talking about. And this data that's coming in, who it's from. So that to me is totally asinine. There is absolutely no way you can guard against privacy with this smart city concept. You have to totally flush it down the toilet. You have to buy in 100% to this concept, basically, if you want to live in a smart city, which all cities are going to migrate to sooner rather than later. So be warned that this is not just going to be, big city USA. No, this is going to be your big cities. It's going to go all the way down to your small towns, especially when they come to find out that this technology manages resources, traffic, population so much better than humans. You're going to start to see government and state grants come out for this stuff to help fund it, and it's going to be down to your smallest towns. It's coming sooner rather than later. Now, they ask the question, how much data is too much data? Well, to me, any amount of data is too much when it comes to these non-representing representatives, your municipal government officials, anybody out there, because let me tell you something. The prevailing mindset, if you will, of most civil servants is, well, it ain't my money. It ain't my data. What do I care? When in actuality, the very reason why you're there is to be the vanguard, the protector of the taxpayer and their rights. That's why you're there. and they fail wholeheartedly, right? I mean, day one, boom, you get a civil service job, and it's Cush City, USA. Hey, I don't have to worry about being fired. I don't have to worry about, let's kick back. Accountability, bah. I'm telling you, this is a train wreck. This is going to be what does society in. It's going to gobble it up. I mean, even the most well-intentioned person, and believe me, I am not fearful of technology at all. As a matter of fact, I embrace a lot of it. For example, I just got turned on to Google Translate. And I'm not just talking about, go to google.com and type in what you want and it spits out a French word or whatever. I'm talking about in real time. Google Translate's translating a conversation. You go to a document, let's just say a menu at a restaurant, and it's written in French, and you're American and you want to see what it says. All you got to do is point your smartphone at it, the Google Translate app, and it instantly, boop, it changes that document from French to English. Instantly. I mean, it's unbelievable technology. It breaks down the language barriers instantly. Now, all of a sudden, I don't need to learn a language. It takes years to do that. Now it's just gone, you know what? You don't need it. You got the technology. See, to me, that is an appropriate use of technology. If it allows us to advance, to lessen the load of having to learn a new language, now I can focus that time on something else that AI can't teach or can't make easier. That is gold to me. So, yeah, absolutely. Is there some technology that I embrace? Oh, wholeheartedly, I do. But this takes it way, way too far. And the only reason is it's not the fact that AI can manage a city better. That's great. If it can do it, wonderful. But it's who has access to that data and how will they use it? Because more often than not, what I come to find out is people in power love to stay in power. They want more power. It's interesting because, one thing that I found in life is that things never satisfy. Never. I'll give you some examples. Women who love shoes are never satisfied with more shoes. Billionaires. Let's take Jeff Bezos, for example. Richest man on the planet. Jeff Bezos has a ton of money, but he's never satisfied with more money. I could go on and on. People that race, they love speed, but they're never satisfied with more speed. You can go faster and faster, but there's always that desire for more, more, more. And it's because we've lost sight of what's important. We've lost sight of our humanity. We've lost sight of love. That, my friends, is the cornerstone of what it means to be human. And that is what satisfies, not things. So the first thing that we would have to do is change the mindset, which I just don't think we're capable of, not on a mass scale. We could do it on a micro scale. There are plenty of people that would love to get together, live in a small community of like-minded individuals, and just be left alone. That's me. That's my family. That's what I want to do. That's what many people want to do. But we're being ramrodded. This is being ramrodded down our throats, and it's going to get worse. And again, the most well-intentioned individual that tries to put forth this plan, and believe me, there's plenty of people out there that are well-intentioned, cannot foresee all of the negative side effects associated with the implementation of this technology. It's just that simple. So, don't be afraid of it, but certainly be aware of it. Know what your municipality, know what your town is doing to better manage resources. And what are you seeding? And are they asking your permission? Because that requires your permission. Whether they like it or not, you have to consent. Because you're ceding your right to privacy. And it is a right, my friends. So, something to be aware of. It's very interesting now that Canadastan is taking part in the Smart City endeavor. and we will see how this manifests in the months and years to come. I'm Joe Joseph. This was thedailysheeple.com's News Shot. Feel free to comment below and visit our website at thedailysheeple.com. And if you'd like to email me, tdsjoe@comcast.net. Have a great day, everybody.